everybody. It is March 8th, 2023, and I've got a little bit of a theory for you because something odd is going on around the west coast of the United States, specifically with the tsunami buoys. Now, that's what you're seeing right here, and one of them is in activation mode. It's been so for about 24 hours. If we look at the event details, you could see it was just barely any sort of significant dip, not even within a meter of movement. So usually you would think this would be a shark bumping into it or maybe a boat hitting it, but I have a different type of theory here, and that's because just last week the buoy underneath it was going off, this one right here, but we can't see that signature because this happened before the 3rd, but the same exact situation. It was a very slow, shallow bump as if, again, a shark or a boat hit it, or maybe these things are being tested. And what I mean by that, and this may be a long shot, it is just a theory, but I've seen it happen before in other parts of the world, that these buoys will get triggered on purpose just to make sure they're moving in case of something taking place. Now, does this mean we're about to see a major earthquake on the western coast of the United States? I don't know, so don't quote me on saying that I'm predicting a large earthquake. I'm just bringing to your attention that these two buoys in a short period of time have both been basically tugged at just enough to see if they go into activation mode. Now notice we have one closer to Southern California that is offline, which means this will produce no data if something were to happen, and that alone is scary because most of the large earthquakes that we're worried about would take place in Southern California, and anything big enough would completely devastate that area. So one thing I would like you to notice is that just yesterday we had two fairly small earthquakes within the area of these buoys. One was west of Ferndale, California, and then the other one was also west of Ferndale, California, basically in the same spot right along the fault line right here. And again, these earthquakes took place right near this buoy that is no longer in activation mode. Right now, this is the one that is in activation mode, technically off the coast of Oregon. Now, if we go ahead and switch this to 7 days, all magnitudes, you don't see much going on in that area where that buoy has been set off. So it was not an earthquake that set that buoy off. It was something else. Like I said, something minor, a boat, some sort of man-made trigger to see if the buoy's working. And that was the same exact situation that took place to the southern buoy. A very small movement of the buoy, just enough to trigger it, and it's been going off for the last 24 hours. Now, over the last 7 days, we have seen a lot of small earthquakes along the San Andreas fault line here. Not too many out in the ocean by the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. So again, it's just a theory here, but it's leading me to believe that maybe these buoys are being tested for a future event. There are many channels out there that speculate that scientists know a lot more than we do about what's to expect as far as earthquake forecasting. And I'm sure you all know one of the best forecasters out there. It's hard to even say their name on a video without getting censored, but I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. A very respected person on YouTube. And in some of these videos, he feels the same way. He is waiting for a large earthquake in the western part of the United States, whether that be from Oregon all the way down to Southern California, even parts of the Baja region of Mexico. And just to show you one more time just how sensitive these buoys are, you see that tiny little red dot right there, and then again it went off right there, and then again it went off right there. So 3 separate occasions between the 7th and today that this thing was triggered. Now, in my opinion, that rules out sharks bumping into these things. You usually do not see 3 sharks bumping into a buoy within a 24-hour period. If we go into view event mode, we could see that one of these dropped down nearly just a smidgen, not even a second decimal point beyond a meter of water to set this thing off. We're still at 0.7 at this point. The lowest it goes is to 0.6, not even breaking 1 meter of water in that part of the ocean. That's important to understand. That means whatever did this was something very small, a slight hit. I mean, in theory, a boat could pull up to this thing and someone could grab a hold of it and shake it and cause this type of disturbance. Now, if we take a quick look at all the buoys out there, it seems like we have tsunami buoys all over the place, but in all reality, most of these buoys have nothing to do with waves. It's when you click the tsunami tab on the ndbc.noaa.gov website that you actually see what tsunami buoys we have available. And the scary part is I've made a video about this in the past, that a lot of them are getting shut off and then not turned back on, specifically this one off the coast of New York. This used to be a buoy we would see all the time and be able to check. It actually went off a few times, and now it is completely shut down, does not produce any data for us whatsoever. And then a one that's a little bit closer to Canada, the Nova Scotia area, also shut down within the last year. So in theory, let's say something along the North Atlantic Ridge went off and sent a tsunami towards the United States. We literally have 2 buoys that would register to let us know that something was coming when we have all this space up here that would have absolutely no warning at all. So again, I ask my friends, what could be going on here? Are these buoys being tested for a future seismic event just to make sure that they are on point? Because we all know deep down, specifically those of us that study seismic events, we know deep down that something big is on the horizon. There's no getting around it. It's just a matter of time before one of these large earthquakes we've been seeing all over the world is going to strike the United States of America and or Canada. And that is why this particular YouTube channel that I'm sure you all know about, an amazing researcher, constantly warns his people about having some sort of bug out bag, any sort of plans, or just an overall idea of what you would do in the case of a large earthquake striking your area or at least affecting your area, because we know large earthquakes spread out enormously. And with the unstable ground, specifically in Southern California and most of California itself, these earthquakes would be absolutely devastating. Not to mention the New Madrid Fault, which is just as dangerous as the San Andreas Fault. We just don't talk about it too much. But this thing could absolutely devastate everything underneath the Great Lakes and to the east. Not to mention, we've been dealing with massive solar activity. We just had a very interesting time with a departing sunspot that was launching X-class and M-class solar flares like it was no one's business. Luckily, that's moving away from us, but what we have now are 2 very active spots moving towards us, which are very capable of producing the same exact effects. And again, I've proven time and time again that this type of solar wind and energy is a direct result in some of the earthquakes we get here on Earth. Not only that, but it controls the weather. In fact, this record-breaking cyclone in the Indian Ocean, Cyclone Freddy, is now the furthest traveling cyclone ever in history at well over 7,000 miles, making multiple landfalls, and still to this day will make one more landfall before possibly fizzling out. Who knows, this thing may jump back into the ocean and continue its path. But again, it's like nothing we've ever seen. Not to mention was the only cyclone in recorded history that went through 4 rapid intensifications during its path. And you can literally line up each time this thing went through rapid intensification was during a solar storm. And I am not joking, it is to the T. Every time we had a solar storm, this cyclone would then rapidly intensify back into a major category cyclone, which gave it the ability to travel as far as it did. It literally crossed the Indian Ocean and some. And there you have it, my friends. Just a theory going on here based off of things I've seen in the past. Again, I want to be very clear that I am not predicting any sort of major earthquake on the West Coast. That is not something I like doing here on this channel. Predictions are very hard to make, and when it comes to serious topics like this, it's almost irresponsible to guarantee something like this. So I just wanted to get your brains thinking. I wanted to align some of the weird things going on as far as the buoys, and of course incorporate the crazy sun weather we've been having that has clearly had a direct effect on one of the biggest, longest cyclones we have ever seen. We all know that the West Coast and even the New Madrid fault line are constantly at risk, and as far as history goes, we are way overdue for a very, very large West Coast earthquake when it comes to the northern west edge of Canada all the way to Alaska, and then clearly down the west coast of the US almost into Mexico. Alright, my friends, that's what I got for you. I hope you were enjoying your day. Shout out to Canada, and you know I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye. Stop right there, my friends. If you have not already, click that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Click all and you will get all notifications from this channel. And trust me, you won't be disappointed.